Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. It's very inspiring, very gladdening to see so many people gathered together on this Saturday evening, a full moon day of June. This year Visakha Puja falls in this early part of June according to our calendar. So also, as people can see, the place is hung with flags and decorations, and is a significant festival day for us in this community, in this monastery. And in our calendar, Visakha Puja is very, very powerful, important occasion. So I feel it's good to consider what is it that we are celebrating. Coming together and hanging up all these flags, these banners, and decorating the place with so many flowers in such a beautiful way. What is it that we are rejoicing in? What are we celebrating on this occasion? Reflecting on this, I would say that what we're gathered together to do, or what is the purpose or the heart of a festival like this, is to celebrate the enduring presence of the Buddha Sasana, the Buddhist religion in the world, and also because of that, on account of the presence of the Dhamma teaching and the Buddhist tradition, the Buddhist community present in the world, the Buddhist teachings available in the world, and the opportunity to practice the Dhamma, to embody the Dhamma. This means that each and every one of us has the capacity to awaken. This is something that is possible for all of us. That enlightenment, complete liberation, the ending of suffering is possible for every single one of us. I would say that's a marvelous thing, definitely worthy of celebration. That, wow, how extraordinary that we can guide our lives, we can cultivate an attitude and a capacity of understanding and a way of seeing that enables us to be completely free, completely liberated, and free of suffering. It doesn't mean that we'll be free of pain. It doesn't mean that all aches and pains will disappear, but it means that the heart can be completely at peace, completely unlimited by any of the discomforts and difficulties that life might present. The heart can be completely free and awake and unburdened in the midst of all of the challenges that can appear in the space of our life and in the world around us. So what an amazing thing, what a wonderful thing, what a fantastic possibility for every single one of us. Again, the Buddha's teaching, when he talks about the ending of suffering, it doesn't mean the ending of physical pain. He himself, in the latter years of his life, had chronic back pain. And there was numerous times in the teachings where he's sitting on the Dhamma seat giving a teaching to an assembly like this, and he'll turn to Venerable Ananda or Venerable Sariputta or Mahakachana or Moggallana, Mahakotita, and say, my back is paining me, the assembly is still wide awake and eager for listening to Dhamma teachings. Please, Sariputta or Ananda or Mahakachana, please carry on giving a Dhamma talk to the community. I'm going to go and lie down and stretch my back. So I feel this is a very, very significant, these kind of little practical details that you come across in the suttas, and I feel there's a very powerful ring of truth to such comments that even though the Buddha was fully enlightened, he was a fully self-awakened Buddha, still there was a body, and the body could reduce pain and aches in old age, and also that he was ready to take steps to ameliorate that, to reduce the discomfort, and to work with that. And so that when we talk about the ending of suffering, it doesn't mean the ending of discomfort, or doesn't mean that everyone will like us, or all of our traffic lights will go green and we'll always find a parking place. Doesn't mean that everyone in the classroom will like us and all our exams will come back 10 out of 10, 100%. But it means that we will know how not to make a problem out of what life presents to us, whether it's... If I could ask people to put their phones down and cameras down, just to pay attention to the teaching rather than trying to record it. Everything's being recorded already, so respectfully, I'd put your cameras and phones away. Thank you very much. So in the southern Buddhist world, this day, the full moon day of May, and the significance of this date is that this is taken as the time where the Bodhisattva was born in Lumbini, which is now in the country of Nepal, and then also 35 years later, it celebrates the time of the Buddha's full and complete enlightenment under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya. And then 45 years after that, it is also taken to be the date on which the parinibbana took place, the final passing away of the Lord Buddha occurred. And all these events, these significant events, the birth, enlightenment, and final passing away, are all taken to have occurred on the full moon day of May in these various years of the Buddha's life. Whether they did or not, or historians and scholars can discuss and argue and debate, but there's I feel an important symbolism that all these events are gathered together and recollected on this one full moon day, and that this is a powerful and important occasion for us. There are many different aspects to each of these events, and just within the scope of one Dhamma talk, it's not possible to cover all of them. But one of the aspects of it that I feel is very helpful to recollect is the Buddha's own comments on how to celebrate, how to rejoice in these, say, the presence of the teaching and the possibility of practicing Dhamma and the possibility of realizing full and complete liberation. How best to rejoice, to celebrate, to express our gratitude. At the time of the parinibbana, this took place in Kusinara, which was as it was said, a little wattle and daub village, a tiny little insignificant place off in the backcountry, up in Himachal Pradesh, I believe, nowadays. The Indian states, their boundaries change and they get divided up and renamed, but I think Kusinara is in Himachal Pradesh in northern India. So the Buddha had journeyed there and had chosen that place to be where the parinibbana would take place. And the full moon of May had come, and he was lying down on the folded robes under the sala trees in the forest outside of the village of Kusinara. And as Venerable Ananda describes the scene, he's very inspired, very amazed, and in a state of awe and wonderment at what was happening as the Buddha's life in the human realm was coming to an end. As the Buddha was lying there on the folded robes under the sala trees, then those trees, the sala trees, burst into flower, even though it wasn't the season for the sala trees to be blossoming. Like right now it's springtime in England, so you have the cherry trees are blossom, you have apple blossom, you have May blossom in the hedges. So the sala trees were blossoming in that forest outside of Kusinara, but it wasn't their season. It was usually a different time of the year that they came into flower, and so this was quite extraordinary in and of itself. Also, there were flowers raining down from the heavenly realms, what they call Mandarava flowers, were appearing out of the sky and drifting down through the forest and falling into the glade of the forest at Kusinara all around the Buddha. Also the music from the Gandharvas, the celestial musicians you could hear in the air, this sort of beautiful divine music filling the air from invisible musicians, the Gandharvas in the heavenly realm playing the music and as acknowledging this great and powerful, significant event of the parinibbana, and also all around many devas and brahmas, as well as many sangha members and lay people had gathered there in the forest all around. So Ananda is amazed and inspired and so in awe of this, and he says, "This is amazing. This is incredible, Venerable Sir. Yeah, never before has the Tathagata been so honored, so revered, has such reverence been demonstrated. You know, the Mandarava flowers are raining down from the sky, and the sala trees have burst into bloom out of their season, and there's all sorts of brahmas and devas gathered around, you know, in their tens of thousands and millions, and many sangha members, monastics, and lay people are gathered here. This is amazing. This is incredible. This is wonderful. How abundantly and beautifully the Tathagata is being honored, respected, and revered." And the Buddha says, "Yes, indeed, Ananda, never before has the Tathagata, the Buddha, been so honored, so revered, so such devotion has been shown. But if you really want to show devotion and reverence and respect to the Tathagata, then the way to do that is to practice the Eightfold Path. That's the best way of honoring, respecting, and revering. Demonstrating your devotion is to practice the teaching that the Tathagata has been giving. So as I like to bring this up frequently on these festival days, it's rather like if you're a school teacher, the way that the pupil best demonstrates their love and respect for the teacher is not just to give an apple to the teacher or to give them a nice birthday card, but it's to actually follow the teacher's guidance and learn the lessons that the teacher is giving them. So that's what the Buddha underscores for Venerable Ananda, that the best way to demonstrate your devotion, your gratitude, your reverence is to do what I say, to follow the path that I've been describing. And similarly, in a different time, much earlier in the Buddha's life, there was another exchange I was recollecting yesterday, that the community was gathered together. The Buddha wasn't present. It was just Ananda and a group of monks gathered together. And Ananda was talking to this smaller group of monks about the events around the birth of the Bodhisattva, the beginning of the Buddha's life. And Ananda recounts this long list of extraordinary, amazing, wonderful and marvelous characteristics of the Buddha's birth. And he described how the Queen Mahamaya, on the night that the Buddha was conceived, she had this dream of a white elephant entering into the side of her body, with a white elephant with 6 tusks. This is a wonderful and marvelous event in the Buddha's coming into being. While she was pregnant with him, she didn't feel any kind of discomfort, and her mind became naturally pure. So she was inclined towards peacefulness, to calmness, to clarity, and sense restraint came completely naturally to her during the time of her pregnancy. When the Bodhisattva was about to be born, then he was born in the forest in in Lumbini, and he was born standing up. His mother, Queen Mahamaya, was holding onto the branch of a tree when he was born, so he was very unusually born with the mother standing up. And when she gave birth to the Bodhisattva, then devas appeared to catch the baby, receive the baby, and when he was born, so invisible beings, beings that were not visible to the other folks around, caught the baby as he appeared, and then cool and warm jets of water also manifested from the air around, and with there to wash and cleanse the baby after he was born. And after each of these statements, Ananda said, "This is a wonderful, marvelous quality of the Tathagata." Then after he was born, amazingly, he was able to stand and walk. And so then it said that the newly born Bodhisattva, immediately after birth, took 7 steps, and then lotus flowers appeared under each footstep. So, which is also incredible, because lotus flowers only grow in water. So, as he was walking on the ground, it was even more amazing that lotus blossoms appeared under his feet. But according to the stories, they did. And he walked seven paces, and then raised his hand in the air, and then spoke, which again, just after birth, is not usually what happens with human babies. And said, "I am the leader in the world. I am the foremost in the world." So the people who are gathered around, and especially Queen Mahamaya, must have realized this is a very unusual child. Not difficult to guess, like this is not an ordinary baby. This is something very, very special indeed. And then at the end of that description, then Ananda again said, "This is a wonderful, marvelous quality of the Tathagata." So at this point, the Buddha shows up in the Dhamma hall. And the conversation stops. The master has arrived, and so everyone goes quiet. And then the Buddha, as he always says in these situations, "What was it that you were talking about? What was the conversation that was interrupted when I appeared?" And then Ananda, who had perfect recall, then recited the entire description that he'd given to the other small collection of monks. And at the end of that recounting, then the Buddha said, "Would you like to hear of another wonderful and marvelous quality of the Tathagata?" And it's one of those sort of somewhat humorous moments in the Pali Canon. It's not, you don't find many kind of jokes being cracked in the texts of the Pali Canon, but there are these sort of witty or sort of humorous exchanges, and you can almost feel the Buddha saying this, and then the group of monks saying, "Oh yes, this is going to get really interesting. Wow, what Ananda was saying was powerful and amazing enough, and now we're really going to get some interesting stuff." That's the hint or the suggestion. "Would you like to hear of another wonderful and marvelous quality of the Tathagata?" "Oh yes, Venerable Sir, please." And then what he says is, when a feeling arises in the mind of the Tathagata, he knows this is a feeling arising. As a feeling abides in the mind of the Tathagata, he knows this feeling is abiding in the mind. When a feeling fades away in the mind of the Tathagata, he knows this feeling is fading away. This too is a wonderful and marvelous quality of the Tathagata. Then when a perception arises in the mind of the Tathagata, as it abides, as it fades away, this is known as a perception arising, abiding, passing away. This too is a wonderful and marvelous quality of the Tathagata. When a thought arises in the mind, as it abides in the mind, as it fades away, then the Tathagata knows this is a thought arising and abiding and fading away. This too is a wonderful and marvelous quality of the Tathagata. So just as he did the Parinibbana earlier on, he had the same kind of way of taking Venerable Ananda's enthusiasm and excitement and Ananda's more sort of worldly perspective and changing the point of view, changing the appreciation, and saying, yeah, maybe being able to walk and talk as soon as you're born, that's kind of impressive. But what's really impressive, what's really amazing, is that we can watch our minds. That's what makes a difference. Walking and talking as soon as you're born, and lotus flowers popping up under your feet as you walk along. Okay, that's unusual, but not that helpful. treading on lotus flowers everywhere you walk. It's colourful, but doesn't really change your life in a particularly beneficial way. But what is able to change our lives in a beneficial way is that we can watch our thoughts, our feelings, our sensations. We can know a delicious taste arising and passing. We can know a disgusting taste arising and passing. A painful feeling in the body, we can notice that arising and passing. An exciting thought, an emotion, we can notice that arising and abiding and passing away. A worrying thought, an anxious thought, we can notice that arising, abiding, and passing away. And that is a fantastic and wonderful power that all of us have, that each of us have. And again, the Buddha was emphasizing what really is marvelous, what's worthy of celebrating, what's worthy of appreciating as wonderful and marvelous is we have the capacity to watch this mind and not to be stressed or burdened or limited by that. We can know this life and not be limited or burdened or stressed by this life. Wow, that is wonderful and marvelous. And as I was saying yesterday when I was talking about this, when Lumpur Sumedho retired and I was invited to stay in the kuti that he'd been living in, the little cottage that Lumpur had been living in for the last 25 years, I inherited quite a number of his books, and in his copy of the book called The Life of the Buddha by Venerable Nyanamoli, the one passage that was highlighted with purple felt pen in that book was this passage from the Sutta of the Wonderful and Marvellous, and about being able to watch the arising and passing of feelings, of perceptions, and of thoughts. So the Lumpur Sumedho highlighted that as, this is really significant, this is particularly worthy of recollection and attention. But another aspect of this, I feel, that we inherit from our teachers. And when we talk about the Buddha who lived and walked and talked 2,600 years ago or so, that is how we think of the Buddha, as this great being, this extraordinary entity who came into the world and lived so long ago, 26 centuries ago. When the Buddha was teaching in India, it was still the Iron Age here in southern England. It was 400 years before the Romans arrived. It was way in the prehistoric era. It was literally the middle of the Iron Age in England. Or there wasn't even an England then. It didn't have that name. It was a long, long time ago. So we think of the Buddha as this great sage, this wonderful enlightened being who lived long, long ago. But Lumpur Cha and a number of the other forest ajahns in Thailand, they would emphasize that, when we use the word Buddha, or we talk about the Buddha refuge, in one respect we're talking about the Gautama Buddha who lived and taught 26 centuries ago, and who was the founder of this religion and who bestowed the 84,000 sections of Dhamma teaching. Yes, that we can talk about that as the Buddha. But Lumpur Cha would emphasize the Buddha, which is the refuge, is something much more immediate, something much more accessible, not just a statue depicting a being from ancient times, or an idea, a historical, say, description or a story, stories about the life of that great sage. But rather, he would say a refuge is a safe place. It's an actual shelter. It's something that keeps the sun and the rain off you. It's something that protects your life. It's something that is practical and immediately available. Otherwise, it's not really a refuge. And he would turn to the Buddha Rupa and say that's a statue. It's not a refuge. It's just a piece of metal or a piece of stone or a piece of wood. It's that can't protect you. The idea in the mind of the Buddha, or the stories of the Buddha, those stories, the historical records, they can't protect. What can protect is the puru in the Thai language, that quality of awareness, the one who knows, that quality of knowing of the heart. That is genuine refuge. So that this is how Luang Por Chah would very, very often talk about the Buddha and say, the Buddha hasn't gone anywhere. The Buddha is alive today. That's why the Buddha is a refuge. He hasn't gone anywhere. He hasn't fled anywhere. The Buddha is absolutely present, because the Buddha, which is the refuge, is that very quality, that capacity to be awake, to be aware, to know. The Puru, the Tat Ru, the element of knowing, the Vijja Dhatu, that capacity to be awake, to be aware, to know, that is available to every single one of us, whether we are someone who's been a Buddhist practitioner for 30, 40, 50 years, or we're 70, 80 years old, or whether we're 1 year old or just born a few weeks ago. That capacity, I would say, is exactly the same, and it's functioning through the vehicle of our separate lives, whether we're just a few weeks or a few months old, or 5 years old, 10 years old, 20, 30, 40, 50, 80, 90 years old. That capacity to be awake and to be aware, it functions in exactly the same way through the medium of our lives. And Buddhist practice and taking refuge in the Buddha is essentially recognizing that capacity to be awake and using it, embodying that capacity to be aware, to be mindful, to be wise and to be mindful, to know the arising and passing away of feelings, of perceptions, of thoughts, of emotions, that quality that knows the arising and passing of all things. That knowing is what the Buddha says, talks about in his own life as the Tathagata. I would say insight meditation, vipassana meditation, is precisely designed to help that quality to be strengthened, to be clarified, to be freed of any kind of obstruction, to help that awake, aware quality to know this moment, like knowing the perceptions of being here in the temple at Amaravati on the evening of Visakha Puja, the Saturday evening in early June in Hertfordshire, in Amaravati Monastery, seeing the other people gathered around, seeing the shrine and the flowers and the decorations, all of the beautiful lights that have been lit, hearing the sound of my voice, feeling the sensations in your body, that quality of awareness that knows the sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, the color and texture of this moment, that when it's freed of all obstructions, freed of all obscurations and distortions, that is the Vijja Dhatu, the element of knowing, that is the Puru, the one who knows, that awakened awareness, that is the refuge. So whether that awareness knows comfort or discomfort, it doesn't have to be attached or limited by that. If it knows something that's a pleasing color or an unpleasing color, a pleasing sound or an unpleasing sound, a delicious taste or an awful taste, that awareness in itself is undistorted, unchanged. That is something that the heart can embody and can abide in. And that is the way to freedom. And those of you who've been listening to Luang Por Sumedho's talks over the last number of months and years will know this is pretty much the theme of every single Dhamma talk that Luang Por Sumedho gives these days, is that this quality of awakened awareness, this is the refuge, this is the escape hatch, this is the most precious quality each and every one of us have. And even if you have the thought when you hear these words, oh, not me, Ajahn, oh, I'm so confused. Yeah, if you knew my mind, you know, I didn't get one of those when I was born. They left me out. That which knows that thought, oh, I didn't get one of those, that which knows that thought, that's the refuge. That which knows confusion is not confused. That which knows self-criticism is not critical. It knows those attitudes, those thoughts, but it's not limited by those, it's not identified with those. In a similar vein, when Luang Por Sumedho would be teaching as he does now and many, many years ago, he would emphasize how it's very easy for us to think, we pick up Buddhist practice or we're inspired by the teachings, we can easily think, I'm an unenlightened person and I've got to do something now in order to become enlightened in the future. And you might hear those words, and many of us have heard those words or seen that in the teachings many, many times, think, well, yes, that's right. I am an unenlightened person and I have got a lot to do in order to become an enlightened person in the future. And we might say, well, isn't that the whole background to the Dhamma teaching, the many, many lives, the countless numbers of lives as say told in the Jataka stories, the previous lives of the Buddha, and he was spending all those lifetimes developing the 10 paramitas of generosity and virtue and honesty and truthfulness and resolution and patience and equanimity and so forth. Like, yeah, wasn't that what the Buddha was doing? That he made this adhitthana, this resolution that he would work to develop all the 10 paramitas until he had realized Buddhahood in the future. So isn't that the case, that we're not enlightened now, and we've got to do something now in order to become enlightened in the future? Isn't that the program? But what the Luang Por Sumedho would very helpfully point out, and hopefully those of us who are gathered here this evening can appreciate this, he would say, yes, that's got a validity, that's true on a worldly level, but if we take that as an absolute truth, I am an unenlightened person, that's what I am. So we're starting from the place of self-view, where we're starting from ignorance, that we're establishing the mind in wrong view. Because if we look at the wisdom teachings of the Buddha, we apply the wisdom teachings that come from insight meditation, from vipassana meditation. One of the very first insights, or the most important insights that arise with the development of vipassana insight, is the body is not self, feelings are not self, perceptions are not self, mental formations are not self, sense consciousness is not self. So that if the body is not self, feelings are not self, then to say, I am an unenlightened person, is starting from wrong view, that that which knows the person isn't a person. That awakened awareness is not personal. And so that he would emphasize that, yes, from a worldly level, we can say, I'm an unenlightened person, but from the lokuttara, from a transcendent or from a more true and accurate perspective, then he would say, rather than making that framework of I'm an unenlightened person who's got to do something now to be enlightened in the future, so be awake now. That's the be awake now. And don't be an awake person, but rather embody that quality of wakeful awareness that knows the personal qualities of this body, these thoughts, these feelings, these perceptions arising and passing away. So it's rather like the example I like to give is like with the world. Like right now we can say, oh, the sun has set, it's evening, dusk is coming on, and we'll be having the Vientiane, the circumambulation, the candlelit circumambulation in a little while. So we say, the sun rises in the morning and it sets in the evening. The full moon is about to arise in the evening, and it'll set early tomorrow morning. But yes, from the position of the surface of the earth, that's what's happening. We see the sun rising in the east every day and setting in the west every day. But that's because we're sitting on the surface of the earth. If we were up in space, we would see, no, the sun is staying still and the earth is spinning. So that the sun is not really arising and setting. The sun is just where it is. It appears to arise and to rise and to set because of the attachment to the spinning earth. If that makes sense to everyone. If we let go of the earth, let go of the world, and we can see that the sun is just where it is, and it's the spinning of the earth that makes the sun appear to rise and set. So that this, I feel, is a good way of illustrating how if we change the view, change the paradigm, as Luang Por Sumedho would put it, that we let go of attachment to the body, the personality, to what we think of as ourselves, as who and what we are, and the mind instead takes the position of wisdom, of awareness. That in that analogy of the solar system, it takes the position of the sun. The sun is just where it is. It's just at the center, and it knows the turning of the earth and the circulation of the planets, but it's not affected by those. It's not shaken or disturbed or limited by that. So what this means in practical terms, if we follow that advice and if we really take refuge in the Buddha, as Luang Por Chah was describing, and as Luang Por Sumedho similarly is describing, then what that means is that the heart is established in that awake, aware quality, and there's a watching, a knowing of like and dislike, comfort and discomfort, success and failure, coming and going and changing. There's the five khandhas of the body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, consciousness, the perceptions of the material world, coming and going and changing. But there's a non-attachment, a non-entanglement, a non-grasping. The heart knows the world, but is not attached to the world, is not limited by the world. The heart that knows liking and disliking, success and failure, comfort and discomfort, it knows those qualities, it's aware of them, attuned to them, but it is not limited by those. So again, using the life of the Buddha as an example, the Buddha was known as the Lokavidu, the knower of the world. Lokavidu, he was Lokuttara, above the world. So he knew the world. He was, but he transcended the world, and so that same Buddha quality, that puru, that awakened awareness of the heart, the more that we use the meditation, the practice, the precepts to embody, to strengthen that quality, to really live from that place, then similarly we can find that place where we are attuned to the world. We know the world, but we're not limited by the world. I realize this is can be hard to understand. So, yeah, but I am a person. I'm a woman. I'm a man. I'm 6 years older. I'm 26 years older. I'm 58. I am 58. I am 83. This is what I am, and that say yes on a worldly level. Yes, the sun does rise at that time. It's summertime. The sun is rising early in the morning. Yes, there's a time that we can say the sun rises, but if you leave the surface of the earth and you're off in space, you realize, oh, there isn't a sunrise up here. It's only because of that position. That's why we say there's a sunrise at a particular time. Aha! So that change of view, that change of perspective, that's why we practice meditation. That's why we develop insight. So we can see this life of ours, this body, this mind, this personality, from a different perspective, from a different point of view. It can be hard to understand, hard to get the mind around, but I do feel if we really want to, say, rejoice in the Buddha's teaching and use the traditions, the customs, the teachings that have come down to us, rather than just dwelling on the ways of celebrating it. It's very beautiful to have all these lovely flowers that have been offered, and all the lights that are prepared, and the flags that are hung, and an incredible amount of work and care that's going into developing these ways of expressing our devotion and our love for the Buddha, our gratitude for the Buddha and his teaching. I would say, as the Buddha himself described to Ananda, the way to really express your gratitude is to follow the teachings, to embody the Eightfold Path. And at the very heart of that is this capacity to be awake, to be aware. And that is very much the spirit of this place. Amaravati means the deathless realm. And when this monastery was established, one of the teachings that Luang Por Sumedho would frequently give was quoting the verse from the Dhammapada, verse 20, 21 from the Dhammapada, where the Buddha says, mindfulness is the path to the deathless. Heedlessness is the path to death. The mindful never die. The heedless are as if dead already. This is the kind of motto of Amaravati, or sort of national anthem of Amaravati, the path to the deathless. That deathless quality of the mind, that awake, aware quality of the heart that knows the world but is not attached to the world, is not tied to the world of birth and death. In mindfulness is the path to that deathless quality. Mindfulness is the path to the deathless. Heedlessness, if the mind keeps attaching to the five khandhas, to the body, to feelings, perceptions, keeps believing in attaching to and attaching to the personality, to our age, to our name, to our profession, our occupation, our appearance, our possessions, that the more the mind attaches to the five khandhas, attaches to our feelings of comfort and discomfort, attaches to the perceptions of what we call beautiful, what we call ugly, attaches to our thoughts, our inspired thoughts, our unskillful thoughts, our emotions of happiness or depression or sadness or jealousy or excitement, all of the emotional states we can experience. The more that the mind attaches to those aspects of the five khandhas, attaching to time, attaching to personality, attaching to place, attaching to the way we measure things as big or small or long or short. All these different ways the mind attaches, then that's the path to death. The mind is attaching to the world of beginnings and endings, of birth and death. If there's genuine mindfulness, if there's this embodying of this quality of awakened awareness, then that is the path to the deathless, to that which is free of birth and death, that which is utterly peaceful, utterly boundless, fully content and spacious, the heart which is completely comfortable in the presence of all the different aspects of life. So mindfulness, that heedfulness, appamada, that is the way that we can, or each one and every one of us can actualize this potential. And so I would encourage us that, along with these beautiful decorations and the way that we circumambulate the shrine with our candles and flowers and incense, that the very heart of these expressions of devotion and gratitude, there is the intention, the effort to embody that quality of mindfulness, of appamada, truly heedful, awake, aware quality. So in this way we're fulfilling the teachings of the Buddha, we're fulfilling the purpose for which the Buddha taught and worked so hard for so long, and for which purpose the sasana has existed and sustained itself over these 26 centuries. Then we're fulfilling the potential that we all have as human beings. So I offer these thoughts for consideration this evening.